Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. My name is Cory, and on today's episode, I am going through my top 5 favorite board games released in the year 2022. Let's get started. Alright, and here we are, my top 5 favorite games released in the year 2022. All 5 of these games, yes, were actually released in the year 2022, according to BoardGameGeek.com. So take that for what you will. My number 5 game, jumping right into it, is Northgard Uncharted Lands. Northgard is a 4X style game, which means you're exploring and expanding out the land with these different tiles that you're placing out to create this map as you are discovering new things. You're exploiting that land for its resources to then use those resources to purchase better cards to your hand. It's got some deck building elements to this game, which I really enjoy. And then you're also exterminating other players' figures to get them off the land or make them retreat off your different tiles, because it's got some area control elements to this game as well. So there are a few different things going on. Usually people get turned off from 4X games because they immediately think that 4X style is very heavy and involved and very confusing and complicated, complex. All those different words come to mind. But in Northgard, I really appreciated how simple this game is. It's very simple to teach, very simple to learn how to play, very simple to understand exactly what other players are trying to do and what you are trying to do, but it also provides some in-depth strategy with it as well. So I would say if you are interested in the 4X genre and you don't want to jump into something immediately like Twilight Imperium, for example, I would start with a game like Northgard, because this is a perfect entry point into the 4X system. There's not like a tech tree or different types of resources other than just wood and apples. And just a couple things to keep in mind, and then you're ready to go. And it's really cool the way combat works too. It's not extremely punishing. There are sides to the dice that will give you attack strength, and that's how you will win the combat. But there are also other sides to the dice that have skull and crossbones on it. And depending on how many skulls you roll, that's how many casualties you can inflict on your opponent's pieces. But that's not necessarily how you win the fight. So, for example, if you're the defender and they roll more attack strength than you, so they're going to win the fight and make you retreat or make you retreat off the tile, so they'll take control of it, you might have rolled some skulls on your dice, which you're taking some casualties of their pieces with you before you leave. So it's really cool. It doesn't feel extremely punishing. It still feels like if you lose the fight that you have some sort of a victory feeling within that battle, and that's what I really appreciate about Northgard Uncharted Lands. Give it a shot if you are looking for an introductory 4X game. And even if you're an experienced gamer or an experienced 4X gamer, if you enjoy that style but want to get maybe a lighter version and a lighter flavor to the table that plays in a lot faster time frame, this game is definitely worth picking up for that reason as well. So that is Northgard. My number 4 on the list is a game that I actually had the opportunity to play on Tabletop Simulator a few years ago with the designers of the game. The designers of the game are local Minnesotans, so they live pretty much right in my backyard here, very close by. I got to meet one of the designers during a transaction we were doing, buying and selling some of our old games with one another, and very nice people. They're from Adam's Apple Games, and really, really had a nice opportunity to talk to them and also get an exclusive look at the game with them well ahead of time before it was even put into production. And now we have a physical copy of it, and this game is Planet Unknown. Planet Unknown is a really unique tile placement game that is super fun. Me and my gaming group and all my friends and family have really enjoyed playing this game a lot. Another simple game to learn and understand, but one that provides a lot of depth and strategy. The really cool twist to this, kind of the elevator pitch to Planet Unknown that makes it unique from any other tile placement games, is that there is a lazy Susan mechanism in the middle of the table that all the tiles are on. And on your turn, you can choose to turn the lazy Susan however far or not as far as you'd like until you have a depot that sits in front of you with a couple different tiles to choose from. And depending on what depot you manipulate to be in front of you, that'll tell the other players what other depots are in front of them that they get to choose from. So you're not only choosing which tiles might help your area the best, but you're also kind of picking and choosing what other players get to choose from as well. So you might get to kind of strategize against them as you're strategizing to help yourself out. It's really cool. Each player has their own unique planet in front of them. You are placing the tiles out on the board, and depending on the color of tile that you put on your board, that is what track you get to move your technology piece up. There are different tracks, each with a different color, each give you different bonuses. What I really like in the game, other than the tile placement and kind of the polyomino shapes that you're trying to fit just perfectly on your board, is the fact that all the tracks give you these combo bonuses that you can really try to combo with one another. That maybe if I move up the green track, it'll help me move up the blue track, and then that'll help me move up the black track. And if you can move up the black track far enough, which is civilization, you get to choose a unique civilization card for yourself that gives you either endgame scoring or a special ability throughout the game. And you can really see how different tracks combo off of one another in different ways, and you try to manipulate that the best you can while putting the tiles on your board. Sounds kind of complicated, but it's really not. Everybody understands the game within 5 to 10 minutes, and then you're good to go. So really cool, lightweight entry point in that respect. But some unique things with the game as well. There are also some rovers on the planet. That there's a red track that you get to move your rovers around the board, and there's meteorites that are hitting your planet, and depending on where they hit your planet, that'll leave a hole in either a column or a row that you're trying to score at the end of the game. So none of the rows or columns can score points if they've got a hole in the planet where the meteorite hit. So one of your goals also is to move one of your rovers around the planet to pick up those meteorites, which will then gain you points, but also, even better, it'll take them off of your planet, so then your rows and columns in that section can now score at the end of the game. So there are a few moving components to this game, which are really fun, and definitely a tile placement game that is different from any other tile placement game on the market. So I definitely give this game a try if you have not yet. That's Planet Unknown. Okay, and my number 3 favorite game from 2022 is a game that I just got played recently and had a ton of fun with it. And unfortunately, it's a Kickstarter exclusive game. You can late pledge for the second Kickstarter for this currently right now on Kickstarter, depending on when you're watching this video. But it is just a blast of a game that I wish was not Kickstarter exclusive, but it is what it is. If you check it out on Kickstarter and you still have a chance to back it, I would definitely do so, because I had a ton of fun with this game, and everybody else I played this game with so far has had a ton of fun with it. And this game is Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning, it's a pirate-themed game, which you don't see a ton of good pirate-themed games out there, so I really appreciated the theme in this one. Not only the theme overlay for the title of the game or for the artwork on the box, the theme itself did come through in the gameplay also. You are sending your pirate ship out and exploring new lands, and you're trying to control islands for yourself to give you victory points, and you can interact with other players' pirate ships and attack them and try to sink their ship to take their plunder, and whoever ends up with the most gold in their treasure chest at the end of the game wins. What makes this game really unique, I think it's the third game in the lineup that has come out with this mechanism now, but it is the card crafting system. So it's not really deck building, but kind of, and it's not really tableau or engine building, but it's sort of. But it is technically called card crafting because everybody starts the game with the same 12 cards that are sleeved in these special sleeves. And as you go through the game and explore these new lands and these new islands, you can buy cards from those zones to then sleeve into one of your existing 12 cards to upgrade that card. So you're never going to have more than 12 cards in your deck throughout the game, and you're only drawing a certain number of cards at the beginning of every round. So it's not like you're seeing every card all at the same time, but you are upgrading those cards to create a unique 12-card system than any of your other players at the table. It really expanded upon the card crafting system by adding a board and adding a lot more going on to it. This game is definitely more on the medium weight to medium heavy scale, so it's definitely a little bit more complex, a little bit more rules overhead, and a little bit more going on. It'll definitely take you a good 30 to 45 minutes at least to kind of grasp what's going on for some of the newer players playing this game, but after you take that time to understand what's going on, this game is a blast. It plays a little bit longer. It plays in about 2 to 3 hours, but it does definitely go quick. It doesn't feel like you're playing a game for 3 hours because you're just having so much fun. There's definitely a lot of different avenues to win this game, and it really feels piratey. So that is Dead Reckoning. All right, and my number 2 favorite game from 2022 is the newest iteration in the Clank series of games, and this is Clank Catacombs. Clank Catacombs is just fantastic. I'm sure all of you watching are familiar with the Clank games, how it's deck building with a board and you're sending your explorer down into the depths of the dungeons and trying to grab treasure and get out before the dragon kills you or before the entire catacombs collapses. And the deck building is so much fun in this game, and the race to grab the different treasures and get out is just a ton of fun. And I'm not going to go into exactly, how Clank plays because, like I said, Clank is an older game at this point, and it's basically just deck building with exploring a board and like I said, grabbing treasures and getting out. But what Clank Catacombs introduces is the fact that when you explore, you're exploring different tiles and turning the tiles in such a way that might wall off your opponents from getting to where you are, but giving you the best path to take to get the treasures that you need. So there's definitely a sense of exploration in Clank Catacombs that none of the other Clank versions really had, and I really appreciate the exploration feeling. It adds a little bit of a shift to the gameplay in the Clank series, but a ton of replayability in my opinion, because you never know what tile is going to pop up when, and the fact that you can turn each tile and navigate your own path, and then eventually you might meet up with other players' tiles. And when to do that and picking and choosing on what you're doing when is just a ton of fun, and adding this exploration element just adds to all that fun. So that is Clank Catacombs. Okay, and finally, my number one favorite game released in 2022 has been a game that I've gotten to the table quite a few times here recently and have had a ton of fun every time I've played it. But this is definitely, I would say, the heaviest game on my list and kind of the most moving parts. But it's got one of my favorite combinations of mechanisms ever to be released, and it's a newer marriage of mechanisms that we haven't seen ever until recently, the last couple of years. And this game is Endless Winter, and the mechanisms I'm talking about is mixing deck building with worker placement in such a way that the cards you play will manipulate how you place your workers or where you can place your workers on the board. And I love worker placement games and I love deck building games. And anytime games can marriage those two together, it just creates for a ton of fun gameplay. Dune Imperium did that recently, and I love Dune Imperium. The Lost Ruins of Arnak did it recently, and I really like the Lost Ruins of Arnak. And now Endless Winter, it's doing the same thing with the deck building and the worker placement, but it does this in a little bit more of a unique way, to where in the other games, what cards you play are telling you pretty much where you can send your people to worker place on different spots on the board to get you different bonuses. Where Endless Winter differs is that you can place your worker on any space you would like to try to get those bonuses, and it just does various things for you, and I'll get into that in a second. But what makes this unique is that the cards from your hand in this game will actually boost your action on where you placed your worker. Your hand doesn't box you out or constrain you from going to such places. You can go to any places that you desire, which I really appreciate, and it really opens up this game a lot and creates for a little bit more strategy space, I should say. But the cards you have in your hand and the way you're building your deck, you're trying to get different cards in your deck that will boost different actions in different ways to help tailor your strategy the best. You're building out your little tents and settlements, and you're trying to create towns out of those settlements to try to get the bonuses. Anytime at the end of the round that you're collecting income, you are generating the income bonuses from the main player map on where you have settlements or the little towns, and I forget exactly what they're called, but depending on how you're controlling the different areas on that board is what bonuses during the income phase that you gain. And then there are other things like placing tiles for other bonuses on a separate board. There are a few different boards with a few different things going on. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Stefan Feld's Trajan. In Trajan, there are a bunch of little different mini games you're doing. In Endless Winter, it's not so much the feeling of a bunch of mini games. It's kind of the feeling of like 3 large games that you're playing all in the same time. But the way that the actions on the main board flow with what you can do on the other couple boards is just really neat, how you can see that all work and come together. So if you enjoy deck building with worker placement, but if you felt a little bit too constrained or walled off from what you could do in those games and you wanted a little bit more freedom in what you could do, then Endless Winter might be for you, Because like I said, you can go to any spot you want, but depending on what you have in your hand, you can use those to boost those actions. So really appreciated that from Endless Winter. I was really afraid that this just kind of might be more of the same because we've already seen a couple other games with the kind of the same thing going on, but really this game feels completely different from the other two, and it's its own thing completely. I have all three in my collection, and all three feel completely different, and I'm planning to keep all three in my collection for a very long time, so they all feel completely different enough. So if that was one of the reasons why you haven't gotten Endless Winter yet, was because you have the other two games or have one of the other games, and you think that the deck building with worker placement and it, is enough just with the one game, and it scratches that itch enough just with the one game, you might want to reconsider Endless Winter because it does feel completely different from any other game on the market. Like I said, it's my #1 favorite game from 2022, so that's saying something as well because I have been playing a lot of games. I do play a lot of games, and to make my #1 of the year is saying something. So that is it for today's list. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave in the comments below what your favorite games were that were released in 2022, or at least according to BoardGameGeek.com, which games were released in 2022. But having said that, yeah, leave your games in the comments below. If you suggest some games that I have not tried yet, because I don't get to play all the games from every year, definitely leave those in the comments as well, because I would like to seek those out and give those a try if those were your favorite games of the year. And as always, if you appreciate the content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.